All right. We are on chapter we did pray, Lori, before you got on. We are on Revelation chapter 13. We did Felicia, and so now we're going into the commentaries. And Cindy, I'm glad you joined us. Would you do John first?
Yes.
Thanks.
Can you remind me where we are?
Chapter 13. Mm-hmm.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Is what we're reading the commentaries for?
Yeah, we did Felicia Masonheimer. We did part of her, then Stan came in and talked, and then we did the rest of her yesterday. And now we're moving on to the other commentaries.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I stood. Most manuscripts read, he stood, referring again to the dragon or Satan. He takes a position in the midst of the nations of his world, represented by the sand of the sea, a beast, a monster, which describes a vicious killing animal. In this context, the term represents both a person, Antichrist, and his system, the world. The final satanic world empire will be inseparable from the demon-possessed man who leads it. He is also described in Daniel, and there are a lot of references there. Rising up out of the sea. The sea represents the abyss or pit, haunt of deep. There is Satan summoning a powerful demon from the abyss, who then activates and controls the beast, Antichrist, and his empire.
And hang on
7 heads, 10 horns.
So here, so here is he saying, instead of the sea being the nations, this is actually the abyss.
Yes.
In verse 1.
Yes.
Okay. And then he rose up and he
7
I'm sorry. I had a call come in at the same time you were reading it, so I'm just I'm sorry, trying to catch up. So then he's giving that last line you said, he was this one that rose up standing out of the sea. He gave power to.
He then activates and controls the beast, Antichrist, in parentheses, and his empire.
Activates and controls. So this would be
the beast, and parentheses, Antichrist, and his empire.
So it's Satan.
Yes. 7 heads and 10 horns. This description is like that of Satan in 12:3. The heads may represent successive world empires: Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and the final kingdom of the Antichrist. The final one is made up of all the kingdoms represented by the horns. 10 is a number that symbolizes the totality of human military and political power assisting the beast, parentheses, Antichrist, as he controls the world. Horns always represent power, as in the animal kingdom, both offensive power, parentheses, attack, and defensive power, parentheses, protection. Daniel shows that the human Antichrist will rise up from these 10 kings. And that reference is Daniel 7:16-24. John picks up the numerical imagery of Daniel 2:41 and 42, which refers to the statues clay. The apostle sees the beast, the final world government, the Antichrist, anti-God coalition, headed by a revived Roman Empire, having the strengths of various world powers, yet mixed with weaknesses, ultimately crushed. And there are a lot of references in Daniel. The crown showed the regal dominion of this confederate kingdom. Blasphemous name. Throughout history, every time a monarch has identified himself as a god, he has blasphemed the true God. Each ruler who contributes to the beast's final coalition has an identity, wears a crown, exerts dominion and power, and therefore blasphemes God. 13:2, leopard. A metaphor for ancient Greece, alluding to the Greeks' swiftness and agility as their military moved forward in conquest, particularly under Alexander. The leopard and subsequent animal symbols were all native wildlife in Palestine, familiar to John's readers. Bear, a metaphor for the ancient Medo-Persian Empire, depicting that kingdom's ferocious strength combined with its great stability. Lion, a metaphor for the ancient Babylonian Empire, referring to the Babylonians' fierce, all-consuming power as they extended their domain. 13:3, his deadly wound was healed. This statement could refer to one of the kingdoms that was destroyed and revived, that is, the Roman Empire. But more likely, it refers to a fake death and resurrection enacted by the Antichrist as part of his lying deception. The world marveled. People in the world will be astounded and fascinated when Antichrist appears to rise from the dead. His charisma, brilliance, and attractive but deluding powers will cause the world to follow him unquestioningly. There's a reference to 2 Thessalonians 2, 8-12. 13:5 was given. The sovereign God will establish the limits within which Antichrist will be allowed to speak and operate. God will allow him to utter his blasphemies, to bring the rage of Satan to its culmination on earth for 3.5 years, 42 months. The final 3.5 years, 1,260 days of the time of Jacob's trouble, reference Jeremiah 37, and Daniel's 70th week, Daniel 9:24-27, known as the Great Tribulation. This last half is launched by the abomination of desolations, 13:6, his name. This identifies God and summarizes all his attributes. His tabernacle, this is symbolic of heaven. Those who dwell in heaven, the angels and glorified saints who are before the throne of God and serve him day and night. 13:7, make war with the saints. The Antichrist will be allowed to massacre those who are God's children. And there's a bunch of references to Revelation, Daniel, Matthew. 13:8, the book of life. Lamb slain. The Lord Jesus, who died to purchase the salvation of those whom God had chosen, was fulfilling an eternal plan from the foundation of the world. According to God's eternal electing purpose before creation, the death of Christ seals the redemption of the elect forever. Acts 2:23, Acts 4:27 to 28. Antichrist can never take away the salvation of the elect. The eternal registry of the elect will never be altered, nor will the saved in the Antichrist day worship him. 13:9. This phrase omits what the Spirit says to the churches, as in the letters to the churches, perhaps because they've been raptured. Chrissy, you mentioned that like after chapter 3, there's no church,
Yeah, they don't mention it.
13:10. A call for believers to accept persecution from Antichrist with perseverance and endurance. God has chosen some believers to be imprisoned and executed, which they must not resist, but accept with patience such suffering as God ordains for them. 13:11, another beast. This is the final false prophet who promotes Antichrist's power and convinces the world to worship him as God. This companion beast will be the chief, most persuasive proponent of satanic religion. Antichrist will be primarily a political and military leader, but the false prophet will be a religious leader. So does that mean there's going to be two?
Yes, yeah. So
the Antichrist.
The first beast is Satan, and then there's the second beast, which is the last false preacher who's very charismatic and convinces everybody to worship Satan. And then there's one more.
Politics and religion will unite in a worldwide religion of worshiping the Antichrist. And it references Revelation 17 and Revelation 15 to 17. Out of the earth. Likely another reference to the abyss that lies below the earth. The false prophet will be sent forth and controlled by a powerful demon from below. The earth imagery, in contrast to that of the foreboding, mysterious sea in verse 1, may imply that the false prophet is more subtle and more winsome than Antichrist. Two horns like a lamb. This describes the relative weakness of the false prophet compared to Antichrist, who has 10 horns. A lamb has only 2 small bumps on its head, very inferior to a 10-horned beast. Like a lamb. The lamb imagery may also imply that the false prophet will be also a false Christ masquerading as the true lamb. Wow. Unlike Antichrist, the false prophet will come not as a killing, destroying animal, but as one who appears gentle and deceptively attractive. The false prophet will be Satan's mouthpiece, and thus his message will be like the dragon Satan, the source of all false religion. That's interesting. 13:12. Exercises all the authority of the first beast. The false prophet exercises the same kind of satanic power as Antichrist because he is empowered by the same source. He too will have worldwide influence and reputation as a miracle worker and speaker.
So let me, in my head, clarify. You guys, if you're thinking the same thing or not. So we're saying, like, in that holy triangle, we have Satan, who's the first beast. we have the beast number 2, who is the last false preacher or prophet. And then we have the Antichrist, who is a political leader. Is that what you guys are understanding too?
Yeah, it says Antichrist is primarily a political and military leader, but the false prophet will be a religious leader.
Okay.
So are there 3 or 4 people, or
There's 3. There's Satan, beast 1, and then there's the last false preacher, which is the false prophet, which is beast 2, and then we have the Antichrist, who's military political leader.
all right, let me write this down.
Is that right? I drew a triangle.
My triangle from what we had studied before, which could be wrong, has
Yeah.
Satan at the top, and then at the bottom, Antichrist being beast 1 and false prophet being beast 2.
Okay, if we go back up to, okay, maybe we come back and visit after we read our commentaries. Maybe I should have waited. Because
What did you say, Caitlin? The Antichrist is the first beast? Satan? Antichrist?
Is that backwards to you?
no,
that
No, it's
backwards?
that's
fine.
correct. Yes. Oh, you're saying beast 1, beast 2. So beast 1, then at the beginning of chapter 13, if this is beast 1, we're saying he is the political military leader.
That's what I had from when we studied before,
Okay.
which could be wrong.
No,
learning
because
more.
he does have the horns, which means he would be vicious, and the heads and the diadems, and I think that's why I was confusing myself too.
Caitlin, can you send a picture of that?
Yeah.
Who did you have marked as beast 1? You had the political military leaders beast 1 then.
Yes.
Is that the Antichrist, Caitlin?
Yes.
And then the false prophet is beast 2 that work together supporting Satan at the top.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So if you think of beast 1 and beast 2 as his puppets with different purposes, one on the religious side and one on the military and political side, that will help keep it straight, I think. I'm sorry, Cindy, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
No,
Thank you.
that's fine. Causes to worship. He causes is used 8 times of him. He was influenced to establish a world headed by Antichrist and entice people to accept that system, whose deadly wound was healed. This likely refers to the carefully crafted deception of a false resurrection, a false murder to inspire allegiance for the world. 13:13, great signs. The same phrase is used of Jesus's miracles in John, which indicates the false prophet performed signs that counterfeit Christ. Satan, who has done supernatural works in the past, Exodus and 2 Timothy are noted, must use his strategy of false miracles to convince the world that Antichrist is more powerful than God's true witnesses, including Jesus Christ. Fire come down from heavens. The context indicates that the false prophet does counterfeit pyrotechnic signs continually.
Sounds like
To
our church
convince-
stages.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really does. To continue to convince people of his power, and also in imitation of the 2 witnesses in chapter 11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 13:14, make an image. This refers to a replication of Antichrist that is related to the throne he will erect during the abomination of desolation, halfway into the tribulation period. This will happen in the Jerusalem temple when Antichrist abolishes the former false world religion and seeks to have people worship him alone as
Okay.
God.
Okay, so that's the abomination of desolation.
Yes.
That's when we know we're at
Half-
the turning point. When that happens, that's the mid. That's how you know. That's the marker. Like that peace treaty will be the beginning, and then the marker of the beginning of the second half will be the abomination of desolation.
I don't understand what abomination of desolation means.
He sets himself up in the temple. We'll read more about it. The Antichrist will have peace with Israel for the first 3.5 years, allow them to do their worship at the temple, rebuild the temple, all of that. That 3.5 years in, he breaks that contract or that treaty that he made with them, and he sets himself up in the temple as God. And then he desecrates the temple. Like, he does all the things that are abominable to God inside that temple. So we'll read more about it though, but that's when we know we're at the midpoint.
13:15, speak. Okay. The false prophet will give the image of Antichrist, the appearance of life, and the image will seem to utter words, contrary to what is normally true of idols. And it cites Psalm and I think it's Habakkuk. Cause to be killed. His gentleness is a lie, since he is a killer. Some Gentiles will be spared to populate the kingdom, and Jews will be protected.
Wait a minute. Some
13:16.
Gentiles will be spared to populate the kingdom?
The kingdom, and that the reference to that is Matthew 25:31-40. And Jews will be protected, Revelation 12:17.
That Matthew,
13,
I'm sorry. The Matthew reference is the sheep and the goats.
Oh, yeah. Okay. They have a purpose, but they're not really committed.
13:16, a mark.
Wait a minute, Cindy, what did you say about the Jews? They're going to be protected.
They will be protected according to Revelation 12:17.
Is that where they marked the Jews? He sealed them.
13:16, a mark. In the Roman Empire, this was a normal identifying symbol or brand that slaves and soldiers bore on their bodies. Some of the ancient mystical cults delighted in such tattoos, which identified members with a form of worship. Antichrist will have a similar requirement, one that will need to be visible on the hand or forehead. 13:17, buy or sell. Antichrist mark will allow people to engage in daily commerce, including the food and other necessities. Without the identifying mark, individuals will be cut off from the necessities of life. Number of his name. The beast Antichrist will have a name inherent in a numbering system. It is not clear from the text exactly what this name and number system will be or what its significance will be. 13:18, his number is 666. This is the essential number of a man. The number 6 falls one short of God's perfect number 7, and thus represents human imperfection. Antichrist, the most powerful human the world will ever know, will still be a man. The ultimate in human and demonic power is a 6, not perfect as God is. The threefold repetition of the number is intended to reiterate and underscore man's identity. When Antichrist is finally revealed, there will be some way to identify him with this basic number of a man, or his name may have the numerical equivalent of 666. In many languages, including Hebrew, Greek, and Latin, letters have numerical equivalents. Because this text reveals very little about the meaning of 666, it is unwise to speculate beyond what is said. That's the end.
All right. Worsby does a little overview. No, he doesn't. It's 1 through 10. Okay. Says some text read, and he, Satan. Okay, I think this is why I was confused, but I think now I got it. This first one being Satan, but from him, because he's got all the power and authority, comes this other beast. So he, Satan, stood upon the sand of the sea. The sea symbolizes the Gentile nations. Let's see, this is why I'm confused. From one of them, Satan will bring forth his super leader, the man we call Antichrist. Up to this point, Antichrist has headed a 10-nation European league, but now he is about to embark on a new career as Satan's world dictator. I think that's why I've been confused in the past. You will remember that Antichrist began his career as a peacemaker in Revelation 6:2 and even settled the Arab-Israeli problem by making a covenant with the Jews to protect them for 7 years. Can we look up Daniel 9, verse 27? I want to see how that's worded.
I have it.
Thank you.
This king will make a 7-year treaty with the people, but after half that time, he will break his pledge and stop the Jews from all their sacrifices and their offerings. Then, as a climax to all his terrible deeds, the enemy shall utterly defile the sanctuary of God. But in God's time and plan, his judgment will be poured out upon this evil one.
Okay, so this Antichrist shows up as a peacemaker, settles the Arab-Israeli problem, which means this thing that's happening right now is probably not going to happen. That we need to watch who's coming in. By making a covenant with the Jews to protect them for 7 years, Daniel 9:27. This protection will permit the nation to rebuild the temple and reinstitute religious rituals. Again, referring back to Daniel 9:27 and Revelation 11:1. But in the middle of the 7-year period, the time that we are studying now, which is Revelation 10 through 14, chapters 10 through 14, he will break the covenant, stop the ceremonies, and set himself up as God in the temple. Can someone look up 2 Thessalonians 2?
I have it.
It's long. I'm sorry. 1 through 12.
Now, dear brothers and sisters, let us clarify some things about the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and how we will be gathered to meet him. Don't be so easily shaken or alarmed by those who say that the day of the Lord has already begun. Don't believe them, even if they claim to have had a spiritual vision, revelation, or a letter supposedly from us. Don't be fooled by what they say. For that day will not come until there is a great rebellion against God, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the one who brings destruction. He will exalt himself and defy everything the people call God and every object of worship. He will even sit in the temple of God, claiming that he himself is God. Don't you remember what I told you about all this when I was with you? And you know what's holding him back, for he can be revealed only when his time comes. For this lawlessness is already at work secretly, and it will remain secret until the one who is holding it back steps out of the way. Then the man of lawlessness will be revealed, but the Lord Jesus will slay him with the breath of his mouth and destroy him by the splendor of his coming. This man will come to do the work of Satan. With counterfeit power and signs and miracles, he will use every kind of evil deception to fool those on their way to destruction, because they refuse to love and accept the truth that would save them. So God will cause them to be greatly deceived, and they will believe these lies. Then they will be condemned for enjoying evil rather than believing the truth. Well, that says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So I marked this first part of chapter 13 with that 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 12, because that's what's happening, is that desolation, abomination. And that makes more sense to me now why this is considered the center, 10 through 14 is considered the center. The symbolic description of the beast enables us to learn something about his origin and character. God does not see him as a man made in a divine image, but as a wild animal under the control of Satan. He is a man, we know that from Revelation 13:18, but he is energized from hell, where he comes out of the pit. And he refers to Revelation 11:7 and 17:8. Just as Jesus Christ is God in the flesh, so the beast will be Satan in a human body. So it's just a mirror of what Jesus did. John 13, verse 2 and verse 27 is the reference for that. Do we want to look that up? That Satan will be flesh in a human body. Just as Jesus Christ is God in the flesh, so the beast will be Satan in a human body.
I have it.
Okay. It's 13, verse 2, and then verse 27.
13:2 says, "Now when it was time for supper, the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, Simon Iscariot's son, to betray him." And 27, "After Judas ate the piece of bread, Satan entered him. So Jesus told him, 'What are you doing? What you are doing, do quickly.'"
So that's a sample of Satan being in a human body. The 7 heads represent 7 mountains. Since Rome was built on 7 hills, this must be a veiled reference to that powerful city. It would be a most meaningful allusion in John's day, which look at what the Pope's doing right now. He's a very influential, powerful religious leader. And look at what he's doing right now.
What do you mean?
Well, Stan, can you hear me? Hang on. Stan was reading yesterday that there's entire countries now turning against what he's doing. Stan. Apparently he went somewhere. I forget what country he said, because he was saying they can't actually marry homosexual companies, but that the priests were to bless them. So they couldn't actually do a
Oh.
like legal marriage to the church, but that the Pope could bless, or that the priest could bless them. And there's like the priests that are going against him, he like the one in Texas, like he took away their home and everything. And now there's like an entire country of priests that, and I forget where he said it was, but I mean, the Vatican is its own country and it's run by the Pope. So he would also be a strong political leader. Very interesting. Okay, where was I here? The seven head, okay, it would be meaningful illusion in John's day. The 10 horns represent 10 kingdoms, reference back to Daniel 7 again. It appears that the beast will head a United States of Europe, a revived Roman Empire, before taking over as world dictator. All nations will no doubt admire and thank him for the peace that he achieved, little realizing.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
That's a,
Are we thinking United Nations or no?
well, I don't know. I thought about that too. They're not at the right number. Like, what are they right now? At 13? I mean, they would have to consolidate even more. Let me see how many people. I thought about that too, like the common euro and how many countries are in the European Union? 27 right now. But I thought when they first started out, wasn't it like 13?
Yeah, initially.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And what's the number to be, Chrissy?
10.
Oh,
How many did you say there are?
27 currently.
Well, if you say it had 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns, what does that add up to?
oh my Lori.
You're right.
You got it, Lori. Just
Okay. Oh man. No wonder the Lord has been wanting us to study Revelation 5,056 times. Okay. So the 10 kingdoms represent the 10 horns represent 10 kingdoms. The beast will lead the United States of Europe, a revised Roman Empire, before taking over as dictator. All nations will no doubt admire and thank him for the peace he has achieved, little realizing the sorrow and destruction that he will bring on the world. The 3 animals named in Revelation 13:2 remind us of the 4 beasts that Daniel saw in his dream. Daniel 7 was a lion, which is Babylon. Isn't it interesting? Because we just studied Daniel, and yet here I am again, like, no, what was, all right, the lion was Babylon. The bear was Media Persia. And the leopard was Greece. Because remember, Alexander the Great was so fast. I'm looking here. Where's the leopard? Oh, there it is. Greece. And a terrible beast is the Antichrist. Oh. So and it says into it the dragon, that would be Satan, gave his power and his throne great authority. Right? Anyway, okay, I'm going to keep going here before I confuse myself. John saw these animals or kingdoms in reverse order since he was looking backwards. So in Daniel's order, it would have been the opposite direction because he was looking forward. Now John is looking backwards. While Daniel was looking ahead, the final world empire will be rooted in all the previous empires and unite in their evil power, unite in one, their evil and power. Added to the ferocity of these beasts will be Satan's own power, throne, and authority. Once Satan presents his great masterpiece, the counterfeit Christ, to the world, what will happen next? First, there will be wonder. Revelation 13:3. Certainly a terrified world will wonder at Antichrist's power and his sudden rise to international fame and authority. But mankind will also wonder at the healing of his wound. What is this wound? John does not explain it, but perhaps what he wrote later in Revelation 17:9-13 can help interpret the symbolism. This wound must be important because John mentioned it 3 times. Revelation 13:3, 13:12, and 13:14, including the fact that it was sword inflicted. That's interesting. I don't think I picked up on that before. The 7 heads represent 7 mountains, but also 7 kings or kingdoms. That's true, because Lori, like even a kingdom could have multiple countries in it. Hey, Stan, what country was it, or who was it that has turned against the Pope? We were talking about yesterday.
What?
We were talking about the Pope. I think it was yesterday, and you said like this whole group of people have turned, or a whole the African cardinals and bishops. They did. What have they? What is their? What is? They're banding together to rebel against the Pope.
Yeah, against his stand on the blessing.
Oh, against his stand. Sorry, this is why I was not an English professor. Yeah, so that's pretty significant, I think. Okay, so, okay. The 7 heads represent 7 mountains, but also 7 kings or kingdoms. Antichrist, or the beast, is one of these 7 kings. But he is also the 8th. Apparently, he reigns twice. If Trump wins, he'll reign twice. Okay, I hope that's wrong. I really do. Apparently he reigns twice, but how can this be? The suggestion has been made that the beast, okay, here we go, will be a European leader who will form a 10-nation federation, but be slain in the process. Revelation 11:7 and 17:8 states that the beast will ascend out of the abyss. Is it possible that Satan will, with God's permission, resurrect a man from the dead? If Satan has power to give life to a dead idol, Revelation 13:15, could he not also give life to a dead body? If the beast ruled as one of the 7 kings, was slain, and then raised again. Okay, so he's saying he was a king, he was slain, and then he came back to reign again. So he's the 7th king and also the 8th king, right? Reigning twice.
Well, you know, you
Go
can,
ahead.
you can be slain politically.
True.
And so
Oh man.
you could have, you know, you had your term, so to speak. And then you could be defeated and slain, but then you come back
Again,
to power.
which is real. Okay, so I don't want to keep going back to Trump because I voted for Trump, whether people like it or not. But this is interesting to me because now, have you noticed how the media is now supporting him? Really, really odd. Very odd. After, yeah, something's not right. Something's not right. Okay, if the beast ruled as one of the 7 kings and was slain and then raised again, he could rule as the 8th king. If, on the other hand, the image is seen representing kingdoms rather than individuals, we could have a reemergence of a dead kingdom, similar to what Cindy was saying, on the world scene. However, it would be difficult to understand how a kingdom could be slain by a sword It is best, I think, to apply this prophecy to individual persons. Okay, that's his opinion. Not only will there be wonder, but there will also be worship. Worship is the one thing Satan has always wanted. If we look at Matthew 4, 8 through 10, he will receive it through the beast. Oh, okay. Can we look that up? Matthew 4, 8 through 10.
Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, I will give you all of these if you will fall down and worship me. Then Jesus told him, Go away, Satan, for it is written, Worship the Lord your God and serve only him.
He will receive it through the beast. The second beast, described in the last half of this chapter, will organize and promote the worship of the Antichrist, making it the official religion of the world, one world religion. There will also be words. Revelation 13, 5 and 6. Almost all dictators have risen to power by controlling people with their words. Some of us can recall when Adolf Hitler was rising to power and know now how he mesmerized huge crowds with his speeches. Satan will make the beast a great orator whose addresses will blaspheme God, his name, his tabernacle, heaven, and the saints in heaven. Since Satan will have been recently cast out of heaven, this blasphemy is to be expected. Satan can do nothing without God's permission. So the beast's authority is delegated, not inherent. There's a reference to Luke 22, 31 and 32 there. It will last for is someone looking it up? Oh, I thought I heard someone looking. Okay. It will last for 3.5 years, the last half of the tribulation. In his night vision, Daniel saw the beast as the fourth and final empire in Daniel 7, 19 through 28. There, as in John's vision, is the same image of the 10 horns with the added revelation that the beast must defeat 3 of the kings to gain control. Daniel also heard the beast's blasphemous words. Finally, there will be war. God will permit the Antichrist to war against his people, God's people. He wears out the saints, Daniel 7:25. And even to defeat some of them, he wears out the saints, and even to defeat some of them. John prophesied that some of the saints will be captured and some will be martyred. But because of their faith, they will have patience or endurance. See Hebrews 6 and Revelation 1:9, and will not deny the Lord in spite of persecution and death. The world's population will be divided. Those who are saved with their names in God's book will not submit to the beast. Those who are lost, the earth dwellers, will worship the beast and do his bidding. Note that Revelation 13:9 applies this truth to any man, no matter in which age he may live. Certainly in John's day, this was meaningful, for every Roman citizen had to acknowledge that Caesar is Lord. Likewise, in every age of the church, true believers may have to take their stand for Christ, come what may. Keep in mind that the beast is a counterfeit, Christ. The world would not receive Christ, but it will receive the Antichrist, John 5:43. The world would not believe the truth, but they will believe a lie in 2 Thessalonians 2, 8 through 12. Jesus spoke and still speaks gracious words of salvation, and men turn a deaf ear, but they will listen to the blasphemous words of the beast because he's going to tell them what they want to hear. The world will not worship the Christ, but they will bow down to the Antichrist. In Revelation 17, we will learn that the beast rises to power by means of the harlot. a symbol of the apostate world church. Did he mention that? We didn't read about her yet, did we? I think that's to come. This is not any one denomination or faith, but a world religious system. Okay, he did mention that. A world religious system that has rejected God's Son and truth. However, when the beast rises to universal power, he will no longer need the harlot and shall subsequently destroy her and establish his own satanic religion. So is the harlot, okay, so that last false prophet, so
We're back up there. Didn't you say that's going to come up in 18?
Revelation 17, we will learn that the beast rises, yeah, by the means of a harlot. Okay.
17.
Okay, so this is what 12 and 13 and 14, they are telling us about the characteristics of these people. Because they're saying, oh, here I want to introduce you to the Satan, the false prophet, and this strong military leader, and and then I feel like then we go over to 15 and it starts to tell us more details. Okay, so we are at, oh wow, 10:30 right now. We still have Tony to do, and I still have the last half of 13 to do. Shall we stop till tomorrow? Okay. All right, this concludes the reading of God's word for today. There's a lot there. A lot to think about.
I'll say, do you want to Zoom tomorrow, or I know it's your last day. Do you just want to Zoom, or do you want to
I'm
drag
fine
this?
with Zooming if you don't mind Zooming from your house.
I don't mind, as long as I can get in.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that because then no one has to go anywhere.
Okay.
All right, so this concludes the reading of God's word for today, and we'll pick it up tomorrow at Revelation 13:11 with Worsby. And then we'll do Tony, and then I imagine we'll have a lot to discuss. All righty.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.